Alright, so we take it back to 2016 as we continue the 2016 flashback as the Miners take on the River City Rascals in some Frontier League first round playoff action. As of right now, the Miners find themselves in a surprising 2-0 deficit. They came into these playoffs with a ton of confidence, so much so that the Rascals actually had to defeat them on the final night of the regular season to make the playoffs. Otherwise, the Lake Erie Crushers would have made it in. Miners felt so confident they actually had a whole bullpen game. But right now they find themselves down 2-0 to a team they have long struggled against in playoff action. They had never beaten them before. 0-3, but they would look to their ace, Rick Teasley, who has his own history of playoff troubles. But this being his final start for the Miners in the Frontier League, got to go out with a bang. So we go to the top of the first now as Teasley would get the action started here, and right off the bat he gets the ground out from Alex Colon. So great start for Teasley. When you have those kind of struggles, that's the way you want to start. And in up next, he strikes out Josh Silver, strikes him out looking, but Josh Ludy would draw the walk. So a little bit of, not too much trouble, but a little bit of early trouble here for Rick Teasley. Sometimes when you have those kind of struggles, it takes something like that. And then up next, my fault, Josh Silver would come up with the single. So now we have two men on with two outs, but no sweat for Teasley. Kyle Goodell would strike out swinging, I should say. So great start for Teasley. So now we go to the top of the second, and the action continues. Teasley gets Jason Moreno to ground out, so that's two consecutive outs for him now. And there's a reason why I'm saying two consecutive. And look at that. He gets Mike Trigella to strike out looking, and then gets Clint Freeman to fly out. So this is all part of a nice little streak we'll see Teasley have here. Now we go to the bottom of the second. Now it's the Miners' turn to get some action going here. As newcomer, Kurt Wirtz Jr. with the bomber, the solo home run, that puts the Miners up 1-0. For those who don't keep tabs on Kurt Wirtz Jr., he actually came in a midseason trade from the heated rival, the Evansville Otters. So how about that? And that's another powerhouse team also. They actually would go on to win the championship that year. But anyways, we go to the top of the third. Teasley just continues to roll. He strikes out Robbie Enslin with a heater. And then right here he has Alexi Colon again, and he flies out. So Teasley just continues to cook 6 straight outs. And then this is right here, Johnny Morales, and he grounded out so fast we didn't even see who caught it. So now we go to the bottom of the third. Miners looking to add on to their lead. Look at here, we have Aaron Gates, the legend. Look, he got the long double right at the wall, so that would put him on second base. Miners off to a great start, knowing that everything is against them right now. And then Shane Kennedy, the MVP of that season, would draw the walk. So now we have 2 men on and nobody out. And now, after out by Nolan Early, Alex DeLeon would be at the plate. And sometimes, if you watch my last video, sometimes he's clutch, sometimes he's not. In this case, he comes up clutch. He gets the 3-run bomber, and that puts the Miners up 4-0. How about that? How about Alex DeLeon coming up in the clutch with everything going? I feel like he was a guy who many people thought he was going to have a much better season. He had an okay season, wasn't all-star, but still feel like there were times he could have been so much better. He could have done so much more. Now we go to the top of the fourth. Teasley continues to roll, although allowed out right here by Josh Ludy. And up next, another loud out. How about Steve Marino making the dive? And that would be 2 outs. So Teasley getting some help from his defense here. Up next, Kyle Goodell. And note about Kyle Goodell. Well, we'll save that. He gets the ground out right here. But I got a nice little point about Kyle Goodell. He has a lot of significance in this series. So we're going to go to the top of the fifth now. Would Teasley continue to roll? Yes, he does. This is 11 consecutive men out for Teasley. But this streak would come to an end right here as Mike Trigella would just sneak a single right in there. So, oh man, ends a streak of 11 straight, but no worries. Miners coming up with the double plays. Teasley just continues to roll as we take it to the top of the 6th now. Up next we have Robbie Enslin. He would ground out, so Teasley saying, you know what? Those playoff struggles? What playoff struggles? But Alexei Colon would come up with a single right up the middle, looking to get the Rascals some offense going here. And then up next, Johnny Morales would also come up with a single. So now we have 2 men on with 1 out. Teasley facing the first trouble that he's faced really all game. And then up next we would have Josh Ludy with the double, but look at that, it was a ground rule double, and that's going to be significant later on. Even though it's a double and Alexei Colon would score, but think about that ground rule double. Think about what that would have done if that wasn't a ground rule double. That probably would have scored at least 2 runners. And then up next we have Josh Silver with the sack fly. Look at that catch by Aaron Gates. That would score another run. That would make it 4-2 Miners. But think about those two. Think about those 2 right there. Think about how a ground rule double and that catch saved the whole complexion of this game. So now we go to the top of the 7th. Rascals continuing, looking to get back what they lost in that last inning. Yeah, they got 4-2. They got 2 runs, but you just got to think, if that wasn't a ground rule double, if that catch didn't happen, and then look at that, another fly out. So that would be out number 1 in this inning. But then right here, Clint Freeman would come up with the single right up the middle past the diving Craig Massey. And so that would have men on first and second. So great outing for Rick Teasley. He had a phenomenal, about as good of a last game as you could have. Unfortunately, not quite the ending he would have liked. You know, I'm sure he would have liked to have gone all the way, but he would make way for Kyle Tinius, who would be looking to preserve his wonderful outing, and he does exactly that. Gets the out, and that would end the Rascals' threat. Well, almost. Now it ends the Rascals' threat. So yes, they get the last 2 outs, and we go to the top of the 8th. Rascals continuing. I mean, it's like they're pesky little rascals. They just don't go away. And you think about their entire run. This was a team that in August looked dead in the water. They looked like they had no chance. So I'm going to talk about Kyle Goodell. So in the first game of the series, Miners actually dominated initially. Actually led 3-0 going into the bottom of the 9th. But then gave up a couple singles. And then Kyle Goodell bombed a 3-run homer that actually tied the game up. And then later on, the Miners would go on to lose that game 4-3. But this time, just a little measly out. So now we go to the bottom of the 8th. Miners still at 4-2, but look at Nolan Early look at that bomber of a double. Thought it was going to be a home run, but actually a long double, but that's okay. And look out for this inning, because if you remember my previous video, I talked about sometimes the Miners have those late rallies where they just go on a tear, usually in the 7th or 8th inning, and that would be the case here, as Craig Massey would come up with a single to make it 5-2 Miners. And then in this one here, look at that slide by Massey. That would make it 6-2 Miners. And then right here, Kurtworth Jr. with the double. Actually, no, it was a single, and he advanced to second on the throw. So that would put Steve Marino, put both men in scoring position. And then up next, Riley Moore, who was pretty consistent all year long, but didn't get much playing time as a backup catcher to Toby DeMello. But he would come up clutch right here. Miners go on to defeat the Rascals 7-2, and they would get themselves within one victory of tying up the series. Of course, unfortunately, Rascals would end up winning Game 4 and taking the series 3-1. It actually would go on to fall to the Evansville Otters in the championship round in a classic series.